What's up, everybody? Unrested here, and today I am talking about an article sent to me by another viewer. Guys, anytime and every time you find an article that interests you or you want to get my 2 cents on, feel free to send it in at any time. It's totally cool. I enjoy doing it. I like giving my 2 cents, and guess what? It gives me a chance to finally do a video that isn't one of the 300 questions I get over and over and over again in my inbox. How do I become an English teacher in Japan? I've answered that one a few times. So anytime and every time you find those, send them on over. It's great. This one today is about Shinzo Abe, talking about how he would like to change Japan's working hours to earlier and ending earlier too. Starting earlier, ending earlier. 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock. Some reports differ just slightly on time, but mostly the main thing he was shooting for, that he wanted to get across, is that 8 hours. He wants an 8-hour workday for Japan so that people can have time to go home and spend time with their families and maybe even do crazy stuff like have hobbies or a life outside of work. Imagine that. Crazy! You're getting so progressive, Japan. Yeah. Okay, so 2 questions. Number 1, do I think this is actually going to happen? Number 2, why is this suddenly happening now? Because let's be honest, it's been, literally decades upon decades that people have been overworked in Japan. I mean, really all over Asia. Korea, China, all different parts of Asia have problems with people being overworked. I mean, let's be honest, China's probably way worse than Japan as far as their working conditions. I mean, they literally have like sweatshops and slave labor and stuff like that, and indentured servants. But Japan, they're still not that progressive. They've got the word karoshi in their lexicon, so if you have the word for death from overwork in your vocabulary, there might be a problem. There might be a problem. So let's go ahead and answer those 2 questions. Number 1, why do I think they're implementing this? Why is Abe talking about this in the paper? Well, pretty soon we're going to have the 2020 Olympics come to Japan, and it's time for Japan to appear more progressive to other nations. That's right. We treat our country right. We treat our workers right. Our labor board takes care of everything. We make sure people can have solid nuclear families. And we like to put idealistic things that a lot of politicians always say for wishful thinking in the newspaper. We like to do that too, because that's all this is. Come on, let's be honest. Here's the main thing. The law actually states in Japan that people can only work 8 hours. If they work more than 8 hours, they should get paid overtime. And the reason that people still do work more than 8 hours is because shacho doesn't leave the building. That means the big boss, the CEO, the president, whoever is sitting at the head desk in front of all those little cubicles, telling people, well, he's not telling people, but pretty much the way it works in Japan is you don't leave till he leaves, or you become the pariah of the office. And that's what's going on. They're going to stay there and work unpaid overtime, a very common thing in Japan, and nobody's going to come in and regulate it, because probably even those government workers whose job it is to regulate it are overworked. Imagine that. Even the government overworked. So when everybody's overworked, nothing really gets done sometimes, because things pile up too much, or what you do is you keep people spread out and thinned out in any certain department and not enough can get done, or you pile them up with too much work to not get to, the more humane things, like, for example, people being able to get home and have a family, or not work more than 8 hours, or at least get paid if they do work over those 8 hours. That's kind of stuff never gets regulated in Japan. And really, I mean, Abe putting that in the newspaper and saying he really wants to see this happen is just wishful thinking. It's, it's literally filibuster for the paper. Look at all these humane things I can say we can do for our country to make it appear more globalized for the 2020 Olympics. For example, recently we also had the law lifted on dancing past midnight. And that sounds funny. That sounds like a joke. That sounds like John Lithgow rules Japan and Kevin Bacon's the only one who can free us. But it's not footloose. It's an actual law. It's a law that actually was very true up until just a couple of months ago, really. Starting this year, they lifted the ban on dancing past midnight in Japan. And the reason they did this 100% is because they said, look, when we have the 2020 Olympics and people show up here and they realize they go to a club after the Olympics are over, or want to go have a drink at a bar where there's music, and they get arrested, yes, you could get arrested for dancing past midnight, they're going to say, holy fuck, Japan is crazy. And yes, I would have to agree, arresting somebody for dancing past midnight is crazy. In the year 2015, if we're not progressive enough to realize that dancing should be allowed past midnight, then I worry about humanity in general. I mean, Puritans are luckily not ruling the world anymore, so I think we're past that point. I think a lot of countries are. Anyway, that being said, that's my thoughts on why we saw this announced in the newspaper. Now, again, do I think it's actually going to take place? No, it's not actually going to take place. Nothing's going to be done. This was all a lot of talk. I would love to see it actually take place. I would love to see these hours be implemented. Do I think it will affect Japan in a positive way? Actually, no, quite the opposite. I think it has the possibility to affect Japan in a negative way, and here's why. There may actually be something implemented that does say, hey, workers can start now at 8 o'clock. They can start even earlier. Companies can get them to start coming to work at even as 7:30 maybe. That doesn't mean they're going to go home earlier. That doesn't mean they're going to get to go back to their family earlier. That means they can actually start them earlier and still work them to the same late times. You're just going to see people get worked even more, maybe even more reports of karoshi, death from overwork. I don't know. Guys, that's just my thoughts. Of course, I have no proof to back any of this stuff up. I have no websites. I have no professors to quote. I mean, this is literally something that just came out, so there's no real studies on it that I could quote to begin with. This is just what I've seen from my own personal experience in Japan. Things are not regulated. People are overworked. They stay there and don't get paid overtime. They don't leave until the boss leaves. They have to go to things like nonkai parties, which keep them at work late too. That's drinking parties with the entire building. And if they don't go to those, they become the pariah. If they leave early before the boss, they become the pariah. And by pariah, I mean they become like, the black sheep of the office. Everyone feels like, oh, you're not loyal to the company. You want to see us fail. So let me know what you guys think. I want to hear your opinion, your views. Many of you are very well informed on Japan. You also have very intelligent views, or views that are from the outside of your own country looking into Japan, and those are very interesting views too. I always like to hear your comments back. Whether you agree, disagree, feel I'm right, wrong, anything, that's okay. I want to hear your opinion. Anyway, if you like what you saw here today, I'm Unrested. This was JFAQ. Please like, comment, and subscribe.